Another helpful mindset that we can take, or technique we can use, similar to the idea of perspective taking, is this idea, and this theory, or this intervention, comes from the Gottman method of couples therapy. And what it's called is the assumption of similitude of Rappaport. Rappaport was just another researcher that they kind of pulled this from. So again, kind of this combination of different people's theoretical perspectives. But this idea, this assumption of similitude, right, is when we are approaching someone and we seem to be having, we're butting heads, we're having a problem with them, we're having difficulties in dealing with how they deal with things, and we feel like we're getting stuck in this, the idea of a gridlock. We can make these assumptions that we're already kind of making, that we're going to assume the best in other people, or we're going to make this assumption that if there's this characteristic or personality flaw or issue that our partner or the other person is making, we can make the assumption we've made those same mistakes at some point in our lives. And we can look for those moments, remember those moments. Think about the times that, let's say, if our partner has kind of said some lies, or said some things in a way that we did not quite like, be like, when have I done that? I've done that too. I've lied, I have said things with a tone, I've done things I shouldn't have done, and be able to relate to them in their mistakes. So if there's again, a character flaw, or if there's something that we don't really like about them that seems to aggravate or trigger us, to kind of look into ourselves. When have I done that? How have I done that throughout all my life? When have I made these mistakes? Or are there other people who I admire more, or I appreciate more, who have done the same thing? How can I see that their mistakes are something we all share? And make that connection of, okay, when I did that, I felt I had good reason to do so. They probably feel the same way, right? And we're making some assumptions there, and we can clarify those things. But to say, hey, if they're making some mistakes, if they have this flaw, if they're doing something I don't like, when have I done that? Or when have I done something similar to that that has caused some issues? The reverse is also true, right? And so a lot of times our prideful selves, we look at ourselves and be like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Look at all the good things I'm doing. Look at all the things I'm trying. And to kind of reflect that back on them. If we see a positive, happy, healthy, appreciative characteristic in ourselves, to look for that in our partner, to assume they have that same characteristic. In the moment, we might not feel it, but we need to kind of work our brain to say, hey, you know what? This time I was being super serviceable. I was helping out so much. When have they helped me? When have they been super helpful that I can appreciate and look for, and be grateful for? And this assumption that we share between us and our partners a lot of the same problems and issues, as well as the same strengths and benefits, that we can ease and kind of try to bring to equal point our relationship. So we're not seeing ourselves as better than them, and we're not kind of just hurting them in and seeing them as this terrible person, right? Because we're all human, we all make these mistakes. And to intentionally practice looking for those connections, those similarities, can also breed this sense of connection that, hey, we're very similar. We're a lot of the same way. And maybe that's why we butt heads so much. But in this, to kind of try to decrease the sense of contempt, the sense of anger and frustration with other people, because we've done something similar, and to kind of build them up in the times that we are feeling proud and prideful of ourselves, to also look out, how are other people doing good. I think you can make an assumption of what I'm going to ask you to write about today is, if there's something about your partner that you find rather troubling, or kind of disgruntling, or upsetting, look for that in yourself. Write about those things that say, hey, how are we similar in these things that are weaknesses? And the flip side, we're seeing some things in ourselves that we appreciate, that we're strong about, that we're like, I'm doing so good in this, to also look for those things and write about those things in our partner. When have they done those things? How are they sharing those or exemplifying those characteristics? And in doing this, kind of filter through and figure out, how can I express these things better to my partner?